30 years after Tupac was shot in Las Vegas, Keefe D was finally arrested and scheduled for trial. But something unexpected happened, and it now seems Sekyiwa Shakur and the rest of the Shakur family may not receive the justice they prayed for all these years. I will reserve judgment. On September 29, 2023, a Clark County grand jury indicted Dwayne Keefe D. Davis for the murder of Tupac Shakur. Davis was arrested that morning outside a Las Vegas area home. He was 60 years old. The killing had remained unsolved for 27 years. Within hours, Sekyiwa Shakur posted on Instagram. She is Tupac's younger sister and the president of the Tupac Amaru Shakur Foundation. Her statement ran several paragraphs. She wrote that the arrest was a pivotal moment and that the silence of the previous 27 years had spoken loudly within her community. She wrote that it mattered to her that the world, the country, the justice system, and her people acknowledged the gravity of losing this man, her brother, her mother's son, her father's son. Then she wrote the sentence that would define the next 3 years. She said his life and death mattered and should not go unsolved or unrecognized. And yes, that day was a victory, but she would reserve judgment until all the facts and legal proceedings were complete. Reserve judgment until all the facts and legal proceedings are complete. Read that again, because it is the key to everything that follows. Her brother, Keefe Shakur, spoke that same weekend. He told TMZ to keep the popcorn because they were still waiting to see how everything would unfold. 2 siblings, 2 statements, the same cautious posture. What followed was 3 years of delays. Davis pleaded not guilty in November 2023. A judge set a June 2024 trial date. Then that date moved. In January 2025, Davis asked the court to dismiss the case, arguing he had immunity from earlier agreements with law enforcement and that the 27-year delay in charging him was unfair. Clark County District Court Judge Carly Kearney declined to dismiss. She noted there was no advantage for the district attorney's office in waiting 27 years and that it was Davis's own book that had prompted prosecutors to take the case before a grand jury in the first place. In February 2025, the defense requested more time. Davis's lawyer said a private investigator had identified witnesses who could place his client outside Las Vegas on the night of the shooting. Judge Kearney moved the trial from March 2025 to February 9, 2026. In April 2025, Davis was convicted in a separate, unrelated matter, a fight with another inmate inside the Clark County Detention Center. A jury took 90 minutes. He was sentenced in September 2025 to 16 to 40 months. In November 2025, the trial moved again. Davis had changed legal teams. His new attorney said the volume of discovery was too large to review in time. Judge Kearney reset the trial for August 10, 2026, a delay of 6 more months. Through all of it, Sekyiwa Shakur said nothing publicly about the case. She was not absent from the news. She and Keefe Shakur had both criticized authorities over how long it took to charge anyone in connection with her brother's death. She was involved in a separate legal fight over the administration of her mother Keefe Shakur's estate, a case she and the Tupac Shakur Foundation filed in January 2022. She appeared publicly when Tupac Shakur received a posthumous star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame in June 2023. But regarding the murder case itself, after that one Instagram post, there was nothing. Then, in the first week of August 2026, the witness list was released. 8 News Now obtained the document naming the people prosecutors intended to call. It included Marion Suge Knight, who was driving the car Tupac Shakur was shot in. It included former Las Vegas Mayor Oscar Goodman. It included Nevada Governor Joe Lombardo. And it included Sekyiwa Shakur, Tupac Shakur's sister, alongside Maurice Shakur, his stepbrother, and Katori Cox, his cousin. Her name was on the state's list, not as a commentator, but as a witness. That distinction is going to matter more than almost anything else in this story. Then came the book he says he never wrote. 4 days before jury selection, a camera crew caught a Shakur family member for a short segment about the trial. The clip went everywhere. It was shared, reposted, clipped, and captioned across every platform covering traffic and hip-hop news. And for many people scrolling past it at speed, one detail got lost. Let's start with how the segment opened.
Beginning tomorrow, the long-awaited trial over the 1996 killing of rap icon Tupac Shakur starts in Las Vegas.
That framing tells you everything about how the media was treating this week. Not a hearing, not a motion, but the trial, the one that had been promised, postponed, and promised again since 2023. The report then moves directly to the battle happening behind the scenes, the one the jury would never see.
Attorneys are fighting over whether the jury will hear confessions from the accused mastermind, Dwayne Keefe D. Davis.
Confessions, plural. That single word carries enormous weight, and we'll break down exactly what it means shortly, because the entire prosecution depends on it. But the report had one more name to reveal, and it's the name that transforms this from a murder trial into a full-blown cultural event.
Death Row Records founder Suge Knight is on the witness list.
The man who was behind the wheel of the BMW, the only other living person inside one of the two cars that night, was grazed by a bullet, survived, and is now serving 28 years in a California prison for an unrelated killing. Then the report revealed the central conflict of the entire case in one single sentence.
Davis claims he was tricked into talking, but prosecutors argue he proudly repeated his story for profit.
Tricked or paid, coerced or cashing in. That is the crossroads, and a jury of 12 strangers in Clark County will have to choose a side. And then the segment turned toward the family, and the entire tone shifted completely.
Those close to the case say reliving the tragedy hasn't been easy.
What follows is the footage that circulated the hardest, a Shakur family voice speaking plainly, without performance, about what 3 decades of this has truly felt like from the inside.
It has been rough, as it would be for anyone revisiting a situation like this.
There's no drama in the delivery, no raised voice, just the raw exhaustion of a family that has been asked the same question at every anniversary, in every documentary, on every podcast for 30 years straight. And then comes the part that landed hardest.
You know, over the years, we have found ways to cope with the trauma, with the drama.
Trauma and drama, 2 words that rhyme, yet carry completely different meanings. And the Shakur family has endured both in overwhelming quantities. The private pain of losing a 25-year-old and the public spectacle that grew around it. The sentence ends with a phrase that will be familiar to anyone who has ever heard this family speak.
And try to still continue on and have a full life. You dig?
You dig? Remember that phrase. It's a verbal fingerprint, and it belongs to one very specific person in the Shakur family. A person whose name we'll reveal before this is over. The segment ended by explaining what was about to happen inside the building. Jury selection, and the evidentiary questions still hanging over the case. That family member gave a longer interview around the same time, and the fuller version fills in the missing pieces. The last 30 years, they said, had been exhausting and stressful for the family, and they had waited a long time for this moment. Sitting through the testimony would be re-traumatizing, but they described themselves as cautiously optimistic that justice would come and said they hoped the trial would be fair and that the truth would emerge. So, that's the family reaction the internet consumed during the week the trial began. Now, let's look at the man at the center of it. The clip that went everywhere. Dwayne Davis has spent nearly a decade telling the world he was there. Not hinting, not implying, telling. In 2018, he sat down for BET's Death Row Chronicles and described the shooting, saying the fatal shots came from the back seat of the Cadillac. In February 2019, he published a memoir titled Compton Street Legend, co-written and released to the public amid growing attention. With Yusef Jah, which opened in Las Vegas on the night of September 7, 1996. In the book, Davis describes obtaining a handgun, getting into a Cadillac with 3 others, hunting for Tupac and Suge Knight in retaliation for a fight earlier that evening, and tossing the gun into the back seat where someone else used it. That book is the reason he is now on trial. Prosecutors have said as much. Judge Kearney said as much when she refused to dismiss the case. The book is what sent this to a grand jury, creating a problem for the defense that is almost surgical in its cruelty to overcome. They have to convince 12 people that the defendant's own published, promoted, paid-for account of the most notorious murder in hip-hop history is fiction. That is exactly what they set out to do. Defense attorney Michael Sanft argued the statements in the book could not be attributed to Davis at all because a ghostwriter was involved and, in Sanft's phrasing, essentially made it up. The prosecutor's response was blunt. In a filing, they wrote that a defendant cannot market his confession and then demand the courthouse treat it as confidential. On June 30th, 2026, Judge Kearney ruled the memoir admissible. She also ruled prosecutors could use gang evidence to establish motive. Then came another major development. The second front was a recorded interview Davis gave to police in 2008. That interview was conducted by former Los Angeles Police Department Detective Greg Kading, who was investigating both Tupac and the notorious B.I. killings at the time. Davis placed himself inside the Cadillac. The recording later surfaced in Kading's book, Murder Rap, and in multiple documentaries. Michael Sanft argued the 2008 statements were involuntary. Davis was facing drug charges at the time. He was not free to walk out, Sanft said, because of the threat that he and his family could be prosecuted. And Sanft pointed to what an LAPD detective told Davis during that session. What was said there could not be used against him. On July 28, 2026, Judge Carly Kearney ruled the 2008 recording admissible. 2 rulings, 2 doors closed. Both of the defendants' own accounts were going in front of the jury. Days before jury selection, a Las Vegas reporter got Davis on camera.
We just wrapped up an interview with Dwayne Keefe D. Davis just a couple of days ahead of his murder trial for Tupac Shakur.
Days away from the biggest trial of his life. With both of his prior accounts already ruled admissible, Davis agreed to sit down and give a third one.
Basically, he kept saying that he is innocent. I brought up this book that clearly has his name in it.
The book, his name is right there on the cover. The reporter brought a physical copy into the room, a calculated move against a man who has spent 3 years insisting the thing doesn't count.
It was brought up in court and could be used as evidence in the trial.
Not could be, would be. That ruling had already come down 5 weeks earlier.
There was detailed sentences about the night that Tupac Shakur was murdered.
Detail is the whole problem. A vague account can be dismissed as bluster. A play-by-play cannot. And when the reporter kept returning to it, the temperature in the room changed.
Davis was kind of upset that I kept bringing it up. He threatened to walk away from the interview.
He had agreed to the interview. He had chosen to speak. And the one subject he would not tolerate was the one he had personally published and promoted.
If I asked one more question about it, kept saying that he was not in Vegas that night.
Not in Vegas. That is the entire alibi. Davis has told reporters he was 300 miles away in Los Angeles and told this crew directly that prosecutors could not prove otherwise. Then the reporter produced a photograph.
That night was also the Mike Tyson fight, and then I brought up this picture.
September 7th, 1996. Mike Tyson versus Bruce Seldon at the MGM Grand. Tupac attended. Hours later, he was shot at a red light near East Flamingo Road in Covell Lane, a block off the Strip.
You see, he clearly says that me and my sister at the fight. I showed this to him.
A photograph printed in his own book captioned in his own voice, placing him at the Tyson fight on the night. He says he was in another state.
He says that was a picture taken on New Year's Eve. It's September. Why would he be wearing a long coat?
Davis told the crew the photo was taken on January 1st, 1998 at the Sharon and questioned why he would be wearing a suit, an overcoat, and a hat in Las Vegas in September. He also insisted he never wrote the book, that a ghostwriter did, that he never read it, and that he was only trying to make his family some money by promoting it.
But he kept saying that he's innocent and he will testify if he feels like he has to.
If he has to. Which brings us to the courtroom where all of this will finally be decided. 30 feet apart. The Regional Justice Center at 200 Lewis Avenue in downtown Las Vegas was never built for a spectacle quite like this. By Monday morning, August 10th, 2026, the 8th Judicial District Court had already conceded that demand for seats would exceed supply by an order of magnitude. The court announced a daily seating lottery. Members of the public wanting a chance at the main courtroom have to report to room 2421, the overflow space, at least an hour before proceedings begin each day, every single day. Winning a seat on Monday guarantees nothing on Tuesday. Everyone else watches a live video feed on the second floor. Judge Carly Kearney presides. Dwayne Davis, now 63, faces a single count. Murder with a deadly weapon with the intent to promote, further, or assist a criminal gang. If convicted, he faces life without the possibility of parole. He has refused a plea deal. Jury selection is expected to take up to a week. The trial itself is scheduled to run 4 weeks, possibly 6. Here is what the state must prove, and it is narrower than most people assume. Prosecutors are not claiming Davis pulled the trigger. They never have. The trial will likely never establish who fired the shots that killed Tupac Shakur. What prosecutors intend to prove is that Davis made the calls that led to the killing and supplied the gun. The 3 other men in that Cadillac are all dead. Orlando "Baby" Lane Anderson, Davis's nephew Long, considered the likeliest shooter, was killed in an unrelated Compton shootout in 1998 and was never charged. DeAndre "Freaky" Smith and Terry "Bubble Up" Brown have also died. Davis is the last man standing from that car. He is also, in effect, the prosecution's star witness against himself. The state expects to call between 35 and 45 witnesses. Leonard Jefferson, a California man who pulled alongside the BMW and captured what became the last known photograph of Tupac alive, is expected to testify. Denvant Lee, affiliated with the Southside Compton Crips, told the grand jury that the rival Crips and Mob Piru sets were tied to Bad Boy Records and Death Row Records, respectively, and testified that Davis was in charge, that Davis handed the gun to Anderson, and that Anderson passed it to Smith because he didn't have a clear shot. Lee was not there that night. Also expected is Malcolm Greenidge, a friend traveling in Tupac's entourage, Reggie Wright Jr., former Death Row head of security, whom Davis has publicly accused of organizing the hit. Yusef Jah, the co-author of the memoir, Kirk Burroughs, an early Bad Boy Records executive, and Rasha Anderson, Anderson's girlfriend at the time, along with Suge Knight, whose address is listed as the California Department of Corrections, as the only other surviving eyewitness from either vehicle. His testimony could decide the case, and he has previously said he will not testify. Davis's own attorney has said Knight would make a good witness for the defense. The defense, by contrast, expects to call fewer than a handful of witnesses. One of them is an expert in false confessions and coercive interrogation techniques. That is the entire strategy in one line. The man told this story repeatedly, and every single time he was either lying for money or being manipulated by police. Samp notably took the case pro bono and has said he believes his client is innocent. Now examine that witness list again. Sekyiwa Shakur, Mopreme Shakur, Katari Cox. 3 people connected to Tupac's family named in a document filed by the state of Nevada. Not every one of them will necessarily testify. Attorneys sometimes include names simply to ask potential jurors whether they know them, but those names are still there. And there's another detail from the jailhouse interview that almost nobody noticed. When Davis was pushed about the book, he snapped that he wasn't there to discuss it, that his family's lives were at risk, that lies were spreading, and that there was a gag order covering that kind of material. A gag order. Let that sink in. What could that mean for anyone whose name appears on a witness list in a first-degree murder trial that has taken 3 years to reach this point? Now consider whose other name appears on that list, and why she still hasn't said a word. So, let's answer the question directly. Has Tupac's sister reacted to Keefe D's trial? The honest answer is that Sekyiwa Shakur has not released a public statement about this trial. Not when the witness list surfaced. Not when the judge ruled that her brother's alleged killer's memoir was admissible. Not when jury selection began. The footage circulating during the week the trial started. The voice describing the trauma and drama. And that silence may be more revealing than people realize. The voice that said, "You dig," was Mopreme Shakur, Tupac's stepbrother. He gave interviews throughout the pre-trial period, telling reporters the past 30 years had been exhausting and stressful, that sitting through the trial would be re-traumatizing, and that he remained cautiously optimistic. He is the one who said he hoped the trial would be fair and that the truth would finally come out. The clip is genuine. The grief in it is genuine. The family member speaking is genuine. He is simply not Tupac's sister. Now, this distinction matters. That is not a gotcha moment. And it is not a failure on Sekyiwa Shakur's part. Because there is a reason a woman who runs her brother's foundation, who has been the family's most visible advocate for decades, and who posted a multi-paragraph statement within hours of the arrest, would suddenly remain completely silent during the week her brother's alleged killer went on trial. She is a listed prosecution witness. Witnesses generally do not give press interviews discussing evidence in an active murder trial. It gives the defense ammunition. It creates risks around testimony. It could potentially get a witness excluded or, even worse, give an appellate court a reason to overturn a conviction years down the road. Keefe D himself referenced a gag order covering the case. In a trial where the prosecution's entire case depends on the credibility of statements and the reliability of memory, a family witness speaking to cameras is not advocacy. It becomes a liability. And here's the detail that ties everything together. She already told us she would handle things this way. Go back to September 29, 2023. Go back to the sentence she wrote just hours after the arrest. She called it a victory, then made clear she would reserve judgment until every fact and legal proceeding was complete. That was no throwaway line. It was a promise. And in August 2026, as cameras gathered outside the Regional Justice Center and every hip-hop outlet on Earth waited for a statement from the Shakur family, she honored it. So if you clicked expecting a fiery reaction from Sekyiwa Shakur about Keefe D's trial, you will not find one, because the statement she made 3 years ago still stands, and her silence this week may be the most consistent thing she could possibly have done. But there is another detail worth considering. If Sekyiwa Shakur is called, she will not be watching this trial through a phone screen. She will be facing it from a witness box, under oath, roughly 30 feet from the only man ever charged with killing her brother. That is a kind of reaction no Instagram post can capture and no reporter can pull from her in a hallway. The proceedings are expected to last 4 to 6 weeks. Prosecutors have a memoir, a 2008 recording, and up to 45 witnesses. The defense has an expert on false confessions and a client who claims a ghostwriter invented his entire life story. Suge Knight is on the list and has said he will not come. And somewhere on that witness list, between a former mayor and a sitting governor, is the name of a woman who has spent 3 years refusing to say a word until she has all the facts. 30 years of silence around this case, she wrote, had spoken loudly. Her silence right now may be saying something, too. And that may be the revealing part. Thanks for watching. Stay tuned and check the cards.